Senator Mark Kirk, a Republican of Indiana, had the single worst reaction to the Iran peace deal. He was very to the point. We'll get to what he said in a second. But first of all, I just want to refresh your memory real quick and tell you exactly what's in that deal. There's no nuclear weapons for Iran. That sums it up. They get no nuclear weapons. They can only enrich uranium to 3.67%. You need to enrich it to 90% to get a nuke. They have regular inspections. The IAEA is up their ass. They're shutting down one of their facilities. They're getting rid of a lot of their centrifuges. The only centrifuges that they could even have are the oldest generation, which isn't even capable, or it takes a much longer time if they decided to try to enrich to the point to get a weapon. So it's a fantastic deal across the board, and that's why Republicans are against it. Because Republicans really are not interested in peace, just as the Likud party in Israel is not interested in peace, just as, by the way, as we discussed earlier, the Sunni Arab nations are not interested in peace. The Sunni Arab nations feel threatened by the fact that the United States of America is getting closer to the Shias. We're not close with them. They're not even our ally, but we have a peace deal now on this particular issue. Well, the Sunni Arab nations, who are our oil sugar daddies, are like, oh, we don't like this and we hate the Shias. We want war with them. Let's do that instead. So given that context and that perspective there, here's what Senator Mark Kirk said about this deal. Quote, Neville Chamberlain got a better deal from Adolf Hitler. Think about how stupid that is. So for those of you who don't know World War II history, Neville Chamberlain was the Prime Minister of Britain, and he did a deal with Adolf Hitler where he gave Hitler what was called the Sudetenland, which is about a quarter of Czechoslovakia, the German-speaking portion of Czechoslovakia. He just gave it to Hitler. He signed it over. Now, in order to understand the deal, you have to understand the full backstory. After World War I, the German Empire was essentially dismantled. Germany lost the war, so the Versailles Treaty was very harsh on them. They had to pay back these giant debts that they couldn't afford, and they lost their empire. So out of that chaos and out of that situation came Adolf Hitler, because he rose through the ranks by saying, oh, the Germanic people are victimized, and the Versailles Treaty is killing us, and we need to not abide by the Versailles Treaty. So he rose to prominence, he rose to power, and then when he got into power, he, of course, ramped up militarization immediately, started making weapons, started expanding, and basically at the time, the argument that they were making to the rest of the world was, oh, us? We don't have, imperialist ambitions. We just want back the same area that we used to have, the same areas we used to have. So just give us the Sudetenland, the German-speaking areas in Czechoslovakia. Give us the German-speaking areas all over, because that's what used to be part of Germany anyway. So just give it to us, and then we'll stop invading people. And Neville Chamberlain, who had lived through World War I, was like, okay, I'd rather do that than have another ridiculous war. So let's make peace here. So they made peace, and then obviously there was no appeasing Hitler because that didn't stop him. He continued to go. But they're comparing that deal, okay, which, by the way, yeah, it was the wrong move, but there's no way that Neville Chamberlain could have known at the time that Hitler was Hitler. You just didn't know, right? And remember, Neville Chamberlain was in office for the first 8 months of World War II. So it's not like he, after Hitler didn't abide by the deal, he was like, well, I guess we'll just let him take more land. No, that's when they were like, okay, no, we need to kind of get involved now. Then Winston Churchill came in after, and he's viewed as the hero. He obviously came after Neville Chamberlain. But to compare that to the deal that gives Iran no nukes, there's absolutely nothing in the deal which says, and we're going to hand over extra territory to you. It's not there. You can pretend like it's there, but it's not there. So how is it that a deal which says no nukes for Iran, we're going to prove it, we're going to have regular inspections from the IAEA, and all we're going to do is gradually lift sanctions once they prove that they're not creating a nuke? How can you look at that and say, Neville Chamberlain, this is going to lead to World War II? You're basically saying that the Iranians are like Hitler. Now, look, you can make an argument, well, they're fundamentalist religious, and they're very repressive, and they do a lot of fucked up shit. Look at how much they, oppress women and look at what they do where they execute people for minor crimes. And my response to that is, you know what? You have a good point. I hate the religious aspect of the government, and I hate all those things, probably more than you do, and I speak out against it more than the conservatives do, for sure. But you know who's worse? Saudi Arabia. And there's not a fucking peep out of anybody's mouth about, oh my God, they're worse than the Nazis. They can't be because they give us oil, but they're worse than the Nazis. No, they would never say that about Saudi Arabia because they're our butt buddy and they give us the oil. So the idea is they can get away with whatever the fuck they want to get away with. They still fucking behead people. They chop people's fucking heads off for sorcery, atheism, witchcraft, drug smuggling, you name it, they've beheaded some people over that shit. They're Wahhabist, man. That's the most extreme version of Sunni fundamentalism. People in the Saudi government funded Al-Qaeda and helped finance the 9/11 attacks. So this idea of like Iran, they're the modern day Nazis. No, you know who's much closer to the modern day Nazis? ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And oh, look, the Republicans wanna fight the people who are fighting those people. Remember, Iran, Shia, Saudi Arabia, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Sunni, and this dunce boy over here, Mark Kirk, is saying, let's compare the people who are fighting today's Nazis to Nazis. It shows you yet again, man, I know we discuss this every day, but this is a political party that's just not ready for prime time.